next?
Before Final Destination became the movie fans know today, it went through a surprising number of twists. Entire scenes and ideas were filmed and later changed. The script shifted from a pitch originally meant for an X-Files episode to a story about complete strangers, until it was changed to a group of teenagers eventually, and the filmmakers kept reshaping the concept until it finally clicked. What makes the film's theme even more intriguing is how it echoes real historical stories of people, including Winston Churchill and Adolf Hitler, claiming to have sudden premonitions or gut feelings that helped them avoid deadly situations, along with other accounts of people narrowly escaping real disasters. In this video, we're diving into all of these layers, script rewrites, abandoned scenes, and eerie real-life parallels that make the movie's behind-the-scenes journey just as unpredictable as the franchise's signature brush with death moments. So, without further ado, let's get into it. The idea for the movie actually began as a pitch for an episode of The X-Files, and that pitch itself was inspired by the 1984 horror film Soul Survivor. In Soul Survivor, the story follows a woman who is the only person to live through a plane crash, but her survival throws off Death's intended plan. As a result, Death begins using the bodies of dead people as temporary vessels to stalk her, trying to correct the mistake by killing her and anyone who starts to suspect what's really happening. This core concept of cheating death and then being hunted by it became the foundation that eventually evolved into the premise of Final Destination. Much of the news footage shown in the movie is actually real coverage from the July 1996 explosion and crash of TWA Flight 800 off East Moriches in Long Island, New York. And the film echoes several details from the real tragedy as well. The actual TWA Flight 800 was carrying a high school French club. It exploded suddenly in midair, and early investigations focused on whether a deliberate act was responsible, with theories ranging from a bomb to a surface-to-air missile. Just like in the movie, however, the final conclusion was that the disaster was caused by mechanical failure, specifically an explosion in the central fuel tank. Throughout the movie, the number 180 appears over and over as a nod to the movie's original title, Flight 180. The filmmakers had planned to use that title, but New Line eventually changed it to Final Destination because they worried audiences might confuse it with other plane-related movies from the time, like Air Force One or Con Air. Even after the title changed, the number 180 stayed woven into the film as a subtle reminder of its origins, and it became such a recognizable element that every sequel continued to repeat or hint at it as a kind of franchise trademark. One final example appears in the last scene at the cafe, where the sign that breaks loose from its brackets actually spells out 180 in reverse, giving the film one last hidden reference to its original name. In the first draft of the script, the people who got off the plane were originally written as 7 complete strangers who happened to avoid the crash by chance. But because teen slasher movies were extremely popular at the time, especially following the success of Scream and Scream 2, the studio pushed for a change to make the characters part of a single high school class instead. This shift made the group feel more connected, easier for audiences to follow, and more in line with the teen horror trend of the late 1990s, which helped the film fit better with what viewers were expecting from the genre. Originally, the film planned to show Death as a much more visible presence, similar in Todd's death scene, where he briefly sees a shadow in the mirror, and the water even runs back into the toilet as if Death is covering its tracks. But after filming that moment, the filmmakers decided it would be more effective and creepier to present the rest of the deaths as rare, freak accidents instead of showing Death directly. This new approach also acted as a tribute to The Omen, where strange, unlikely accidents happen around Robert Thorne and his son Damien, creating the same unsettling feeling that something unseen is manipulating fate from the shadows. The production team needed Ms. Luton's house to be destroyed on screen, so they actually built the entire exterior of the house from scratch in just 5 days. The crew put it up in a Vancouver neighborhood, but the local residents grew surprisingly attached to it. They thought it looked like a genuinely nice, livable home. Because of that, many people in the area didn't want the filmmakers to blow it up for the scene, not realizing it was only a temporary set built specifically to be destroyed. Devon Sawa, who plays Alex, was supposed to just pretend to be asleep for the shot, but the moment he lay down and closed his eyes, he actually drifted off for real. Instead of a quick fake sleep moment, he ended up sleeping for about 4 hours straight while the crew worked around him. turning what was meant to be a simple acting moment into an unplanned nap that lasted for a good while. The shot of Alex's bedside clock, the one that slowly fades from showing 1 a.m. to the number 180, turned out to be far more complicated than anyone expected. What looks like a quick, straightforward transition on screen actually took the crew 5 full days to get right. They had to carefully control the lighting, timing, and camera setup so the fade would look smooth and natural. And because the effect was so precise, they had to redo it over and over until it matched the director's vision. The moment where Carter elbows Billy in the car wasn't originally in the script at all. It was added on the spot because Sean William Scott, who plays Billy, showed up that day with a sore, swollen lip. To avoid the injury being noticeable on camera, the makeup team added some fake blood to blend it in, and the filmmakers came up with a quick explanation for it within the scene. The result was the now familiar shot of Carter elbowing Billy, which was created entirely to hide Scott's real-life sore lip. Throughout the movie, the filmmakers chose to use music by John Denver, the famous singer and songwriter who had tragically died in a plane crash just 3 years before the movie was made. His songs play repeatedly during key moments, turning his music into an eerie reminder of the film's theme of aviation disaster and the idea of death circling back around. Because Denver himself was lost in a real-life crash, his presence in the soundtrack adds an extra layer of dark irony that ties directly into the movie's focus on fate and the fear of dying in unexpected accidents. The production team built the entire airplane set on a large gimbal, a special platform that allows the set to shake and tilt realistically, helping create the intense turbulence and panic seen during the flight sequence. After filming the plane scenes, the crew tore it down and repurposed the structure to create Clear's top floor space for the storm sequence later in the movie. So the same physical set that once served as the doomed Flight 180 was transformed into the area Clear runs through during the lightning-filled climax, making clever use of resources behind the scenes. Most of the characters in Final Destination were deliberately named as tributes to classic filmmakers and actors from early black and white horror cinema. Terry Chaney's name comes from legendary actor Lon Chaney, while Todd Wagner is a nod to director George Wagner. Alex Browning is named after 1931 Dracula director Todd Browning, and Larry Murnau references F.W. Murnau, the filmmaker behind Nosferatu, 1922. Agent Schreck takes his name from Max Schreck, the actor who played Count Orlok in Nosferatu, and Blake Dreyer honors Carl Theodor Dreyer, who directed Vampire, 1932. Howard Siegel is named after director Don Siegel of Dirty Harry, 1971. Billy Hitchcock is a clear reference to Alfred Hitchcock, and Valerie Luton pays tribute to producer Val Luton, known for his influential low-budget horror films. Several real historical figures have had experiences similar to the Final Destination theme of premonitions and narrowly escaping death. Alfred G. Vanderbilt, an aristocrat, canceled his trip on the Titanic in 1912, but died 3 years later in the sinking of the Lusitania. Winston Churchill once said that during World War II, an inner voice warned him not to sit in his usual spot in his car, and that decision saved him when a bomb exploded next to the side he avoided. William T. Stead, a psychic who died in the Titanic disaster, was also rumored to have had premonitions before his death. And Adolf Hitler claimed that one day when he was a young soldier in World War I, he was looking for a place to sit down in a trench with his fellow soldiers, and a voice almost literally pulled him off the place to sit down in the opposite side of it. Moments later, a bomb exploded in the trench, killing all of the soldiers except Hitler. Before the movie settled on its final cast, several well-known actors were considered for the lead roles of Alex and Clear. Tobey Maguire and Kirsten Dunst were both in the mix for those parts, an interesting detail since they would go on to star together as Peter Parker and Mary Jane in Spider-Man just 2 years later. Jessica Biel was also one of the actresses who auditioned for Clear and came very close to getting the role. But in the end, Ali Larter impressed the filmmakers the most and ultimately won the part. Several of the film's death scenes used clever practical tricks and reversed footage to create effects that looked supernatural. In Todd's death, the leaking water was actually filmed normally as it flowed out, and then the shot was played backward to make it appear as if the water was being sucked back under the toilet. A similar technique was used for the piece of glass that ends up in Ms. Luton's neck. The filmmakers shot the glass being pulled away from her with a line, then reversed the footage and digitally erased the line so it looked like the glass shot into her. And for the moment when the knife impales Ms. Luton, actress Kristen Cloak was placed safely under a fake wooden floor with a silicone body positioned above her, allowing the knife to stab the dummy body without putting the real actor in danger. The movie originally included a full romantic subplot between Alex and Clear, but it was removed from the final cut. In the early version of the story, the famous beach scene actually ended with the two of them kissing, and later Clear discovered she was pregnant. There was even an alternate ending where Alex dies after saving Clear from the falling wires, as he's electrocuted and then catches fire, leaving Clear to eventually give birth to their baby, whom she names Alex in his honor. In that version, she and Carter create a memorial plaque for their 5 friends who died, and when Carter sadly mentions that Alex never got to meet his son, Clear assures him by saying she still feels Alex's presence every day. Although the pregnancy storyline was dropped, the idea of a romance between Alex and Clear without the baby was later acknowledged in the sequel, retroactively keeping their connection part of the series' continuity. And that wraps up this deep dive into the twisted, meticulous world of Final Destination, a franchise that reminds us that fate isn't just a force. It's a character with its own rules, patterns, and dark sense of irony. Whether you watch these films for the lore, the tension, or the sheer creativity of Death's design, they endure because they make us rethink every close call in our own lives. So if you enjoyed unraveling the clues and connections here, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with your friends so they can join in on the fun. Until next time, thanks for watching, stay sharp, and we'll see you in the next video.